With that, let's go ahead and get started. I'm Carl DeMaio, Chairman of Reform California, as well as Chairman of Reform Leaders Victory Fund and Gen X GOP Leaders. Tonight's presentation is informational. The candidates are here to talk about current events and issues. They can also reference their campaigns. No contribution is being made to these candidates. They're here simply for educational and informational purposes. We will be, however, making contributions to the candidates, financial and in kind, to support their elections. We will be joined tonight by Young Kim, a congressional candidate in District 39, John Moorlach, state senator in District 37, Ling-Ling Chang, state senator in District 29, Diane Dixon, an assembly candidate in District 74, and Suzette Martinez Valadares, assembly candidate in District 38. This is going to be a tough election for Republicans in California. And I know that you probably hear that and say, how? We've already had a decade or more of tough elections. I think that it's because we haven't done enough of the groundwork that the other side has done. And for that, we have to take responsibility. We being, people who want to see good leaders elected. The other side simply is playing the game better than we are. And we have to acknowledge that and improve our game. That's really why Reform California was created several cycles ago, is that we were upset that there wasn't enough forward-thinking and modern campaigning going on in California. And we wanted to get a bit more grassroots and aggressive. Part of what we do at Reform California is first we oppose tax increases. We believe that Californians are actually taxed too much, that the problem is wasteful spending, and that if you want real reform in government, you gotta cut off the money supply by stopping the tax increases. This year, Reform California will advance this goal by opposing statewide and local tax increases. There are over 230 bond and tax hikes at the local level of government, and there are a number of bonds as well as outright tax hikes at the state level, Prop 15 and Prop 19 being two of the biggies. So we oppose those tax increases as a means of forcing reform in government. Second, we have a project going on that focuses on election integrity. And this is so crucial in California, where we have ballot harvesting, which is illegal in most states, where we have duplicate and triplicate ballots being mailed to individuals because of the state's intentionally failed motor voter program, and where people who've moved out of the state of California 5 or 10 years ago, or who have died years ago, are still being sent ballots in the mail. Combining that mismanagement of our voter rolls with ballot harvesting, and it is a recipe for stolen elections. One of our candidates on the program tonight, Young Kim, won her seat outright on election night in 2018, only to have that seat stolen from her when a variety of very questionable ballots were included in the mix at the end of the day. We don't want that to happen again. So we have a number of projects going on that we don't want to talk too much about tonight, but we're happy to chat offline about regarding ballot integrity and election integrity. Third, we got to recruit reform leaders, great candidates across the state. And the folks that are joining us tonight are great candidates, every single one of them. I'm so proud of how hard they've worked. I'm proud of what they stand for, because they're the real deal. They're not going to get elected and then squish on us and cave in. They're going to do what they said they were going to do, which is fight for Californians, the forgotten Californians. So reform leaders are important to recruit, train, and support. And this year, we're focusing on 12 target seats. And finally, fourth, Reform California will help inform and mobilize voters. We do that through a variety of ways, but our voter guides are most important there because we run a nonpartisan voter guide. Reform California's voter guide is not a Democrat guide, it's not a Republican guide. It is a guide based upon who we believe will look out for taxpayers and reform government. And so if that means that, like in 2018, we endorsed a Green Party candidate in the Bay Area, running against a Democrat. Why? Because they opposed the gas tax. And they earned our endorsement because they opposed the gas tax. So voters that receive this voter guide do not see a partisan label, they see a taxpayer advocate label on the voter guide. When we go with our voter guides, we are obviously educating voters on the tax increases statewide. So no on Prop 15 is our #1 priority, as well as local tax increases on the ballot. We then also identify candidates who have shown that they are willing to reform government rather than increase the size of government. If you want to be part of that effort, and we'll talk about this at the end as well, you can go onto the website stoppropertytaxhikes.com, stoppropertytaxhikes.com. You can sign up to be a volunteer. You can sign up to get updates, including the voter guide. You can also share a petition with your friends to get them engaged in the fight as well. With that, let me talk about the top tier seats this cycle. It is going to be a tough election. And unfortunately, the Democrats have so much more money than the candidates you're going to meet tonight and many worthy candidates that are out there, which means that we have to be very focused. We can't contest all the good seats that could be won. And so top tier seats for Congress are David Valadares of Central Valley, that's the 21st district, Mike Garcia of Los Angeles, who just won his seat in a special election, Young Kim in Orange County, and Michelle Steele in Orange County. We are concerned about 2 additional seats that we have to defend, Tom McClintock and Darrell Issa. Issa is not in that seat right now, but he's the Republican nominee in the 50th district. The polling in both those seats is alarming. So the top tier seats include holding Mike Garcia, holding McClintock and Issa, and picking up Young Kim, Michelle Steele, and the 21st district in Central Valley. For tier 2 seats, and this is more of a reach, the only 2 seats on tier 2 right now are Brian Marriott and Greg Raths in Orange County and San Diego. What should be on the list, but's not because of resource constraints, and frankly, in some cases, because we didn't really recruit a good enough candidate, is the 3rd district, the 7th district, the 10th, the 16th, and the 36th. I put those on there only because you need to know that if we get our act together in California as Republicans and reformers, we can go and contest more seats. California is winnable. We just have to start small, do the seats that we have on top tier, and then expand, because there are seats that should be on this list. For state Senate, it really is a defense move this year. Scott Wilk in Los Angeles, District 21, Rosalie Bao in San Bernardino and Riverside. This is currently Mike Morell's seat. That's the 23rd Senate seat. Ling-Ling Chang in Orange County, and it's not District 27, it's District 29. How could I forget? And then John Moorlach, 37th District in Orange County. What should be on the list? District 5, District 25, and District 31. And then when you add that to the seats up for re-election in 2022, we can actually break the Democrat supermajority if we hold the 4 seats that are on our priority list. State Assembly, again, largely defense. Phil Chen in Orange County, Steve Choi in Orange County, Janet Wind in Orange County, and Diane Dixon in Orange County, who's with us tonight. Diane Dixon is actually running for a seat that we would pick back up. It's the seat in Huntington Beach that you'll hear about soon. Because of the problem in the 50th Congressional District and the Democrats pouring money in, I believe that we need to now be worried about defending the 75th Assembly District in San Diego, Marie Waldron. Tier 2 seats are Tom Lackey in Palmdale, Chris Rahagi in Riverside, Melanie Burkholder and June Cutter here in San Diego, and we'll hear from Suzette. Suzette is in a seat where the Republicans will win it, but we need the right Republican to win the seat. And Suzette is a reformer, which is why when you're given a choice of 2 Republicans, go with the reformer. And Suzette needs to get into that seat, and we need to lock that down quickly. What should be on the list? We've got 6 seats that should be within our reach right now. Sacramento, Bay Area, Central Valley, San Bernardino, Palm Springs, and Orange County. But because of resource constraints and the candidate matchups, we may not be able to get to those this cycle. With that, let me introduce someone who I've known for years, whose energy is infectious, who has worked so hard, and I've not seen candidates work this hard. Young Kim, literally is one of those candidates where all you have to do is get behind her and give her a little help because she's doing everything she needs to do. You never have to worry about your candidate not working hard when you get to Young Kim. And she has the opportunity to pick up an important congressional seat in Orange County. And I want to invite you to go to her website, Young Kim for Congress, to learn more. She's in Fullerton, a piece of San Bernardino, and a piece, I believe, of, you don't have Riverside, do you? There's a small piece of Riverside, I think.
No.
So let's go to Young Kim. Can you hear us, Young?
Yes. Yes, I can. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
She's speaking.
I am speaking.
Not sure we can hear you.
Uh-oh.
I can hear her. Maybe it might be your mic, Carl, or your sound.
Young,
Yeah,
we can't hear you, unfortunately.
I can hear her.
All right, Young, while your staff making a couple modifications, let's, we'll go right back to you, I promise, because I know your time is valuable. Let's go to Senator John Moorlach. John, are you there?
I'm here. I can hear Young Kim as well.
You know, the sound quality is strange. It's really hard. They're like echoes.
Can you hear me, Carl?
I think there's a technical problem.
John, can you hear us?
Oh, yeah.
All right,
I
go
can
ahead,
hear-
John. I can hear you finally. Okay, go ahead. It was our problem. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Thank you, Carl, for having me. It was November of 2014 when you gave me a phone call and asked me if I would consider running for state senate because we needed a CPA in Sacramento. So thank you for putting me into this interesting position.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, being one of 11 state senators that are Republicans, dealing with 29 liberal Democrats, certainly been quite an experience. Carl, we finished session this morning at 1:30 a.m. So we finally had a chance to wrap things up, and it was quite an interesting year. We have we were a little more organized this year at the end of session. And so the Democrats were not. They were a little confused, a little infighting, and were not able to get all of their bills to the floor in time for a vote. So it's been an interesting experience up here in Sacramento. My campaign, just for those that are from outside Orange County, the 37th Senate District goes from the Huntington Beach Pier down to the bottom of Laguna Beach, and then it goes inland to Anaheim Hills. We have interesting voter registration. It's kind of getting to be 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. We've got 1/3 Republicans, which is a good strong base, 1/3 Democrats, and then we have 1/3 no party preference, and that's going to be where our battle will be. And you're right, we're going to have a very strong ground game. We've had a very strong telephone volunteer effort of all the campaigns. I don't know if it's true anymore, but just as of a couple weeks ago, of all the campaigns, congressional, Senate, or Assembly, my volunteers have outcalled every other campaign. So we're working really hard, but we also have a strong base. I've got Greg Raths and Michelle Steele. Their two congressional districts are embedded in mine. And then we have the world famous Diane Dixon, who's on the line, and Stephen Choi, Assembly member. So we're working as closely as we can with those two campaigns, and that's been real good to do cross-pollination. We can work as a team. And then we've got a lot of city council, water district, school district races. Hopefully we can integrate and cross-pollinate there as well to have a really strong effort in a unified form and fashion. Right now, because your state senator, Brian Jones, has contracted COVID, and he didn't know it. And we had our caucus meeting a week ago. Tuesday, he was there. I was not within 6 feet of him, but I have still been ordered to quarantine. So for the last week, we've been doing our business from our Sacramento home, at least I have. So that made the conclusion of session rather unique historically, but we are still working hard. We're raising funds, and the voters in Orange County will have the choice of someone who started his political career back in 1994 when I ran for county treasurer and told everybody that the Democrat that was the current incumbent was mismanaging and misinvesting the money. I tried my best. I got 40% of the vote. I lost. But 6 months later, the county had to file for Chapter 9 bankruptcy because interest rates rose and his carry trade hedge fund strategy blew up and the county lost $1.7 billion. And then I got really motivated to run for supervisor from there 12 years later when our board voted for SB 400 implementation, a pension improvement to our deputy sheriff's union of 50% from 2% at 50 to 3% at 50. And that's where you and I bonded when we became pension warriors over all these years. But I had the privilege as a supervisor to modify our retiree medical. We took a $1.4 billion unfunded liability, worked with our bargaining units and got it down 71% to $400 million. If Gavin Newsom could reduce the unfunded retiree medical for the state of California, which Controller Betty Yee announced yesterday was now up to $91 billion, another $5 billion increase. But if we could reduce that by 71%, we could remove $60 billion in debt from the balance sheet, and then we wouldn't look as bad as New Jersey, Illinois, Connecticut, yada, yada. And so we're fighting hard on the Senate floor. I am the only certified public accountant by background. I'm the only certified financial planner licensed by background. And so we're trying to do math lessons constantly on the Senate floor. And I'm looking forward to doing it for another 4 years. If the voters allow me to do that, they have to choose between someone who's experienced, who's got deep roots, who knows the county really well, against a liberal Democrat who is just a part-time law professor at UCI and has had no community involvement, doesn't come out of the experience like, say, Diane Dixon, who is the mayor of Newport Beach. And so it's a somebody against maybe a nobody. I shouldn't be too cavalier, but hopefully the voters will appreciate what I have brought, the brand I built, and I look forward to answering your questions this evening. Thank you.
Well, I'll tell our volunteers, and again, people from across the state are on this Zoom. We were able to activate nearly 9,000 volunteers this cycle so far. And even if you don't live in John's district, the reason why John is so important in the state Senate is it's two reasons. One, it's an extra Republican seat that we got to hold. But number two, you just saw it. This guy is an encyclopedia of policy knowledge, and he knows how to read a balance sheet. That is invaluable. We need that sort of voice in Sacramento. Let's go to Young Kim. We finally figured it out, Young. Can you hear us, and can we hear you? Go ahead, Young.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Great. Now you can hear me. The host unmuted me just now. So thank you. Thank you, Carl. So good to see you. And I appreciate your leadership and for your tireless effort to engage all of our listeners, all the voters, and all your reformers to educate them about the importance of this election cycle and also letting them know what we are up against in this cycle if we don't step up and engage. So thank you so much for that. I appreciated our efforts on working together in the last election cycle, and I know you're there for me for this because together we're going to win. I also want to give a shout out to Senator John Moorlach for fighting the tough fight for all of us in Sacramento. We are frustrated with that one-party dominance, and at times it seems like you're fighting the lonely fight yourselves with the few members that you mentioned on your top tier to protect Scott Wilk, Ling-Ling Chang, Senator John Moorlach. You're not alone because we are fighting this fight together. So for everyone who is on this call, I just want to thank you so much for your efforts to make sure that all of our critical races in this election cycle have the resources and the grassroots support that we all need to bring home victory in November. The 39th congressional district that I'm running is in 3 counties. So we have LA County cities of Diamond Bar, Walnut, Hacienda Heights, Roland Heights, and La Habra Heights. We also have 60% of the district in Orange County. We have Anaheim Hills, Buena Park, Fullerton, Brea, Placentia, Yorba Linda, La Habra. I don't know if I forgot, but we have the San Bernardino County, the entire city of Chino Hills. As Senator Moorlach mentioned, more and more, all of our districts at the congressional, state, or assembly level, it all becomes very diverse. So my district is also 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. And I have 1/3 of the district as an Asian American. So I can tell you, I fit the district and I definitely look like the district. And this is a district that I know, having worked with Ad Royce for over 2 decades. So for me, this is a continuation of the work that I've done with Ed. And as an immigrant, as a mother of 4, oh my gosh, I am living the American dream. And I want to make sure that I continue to fight for the American dream and make sure that it's available for the next generation. I am worried about how our state and country is moving towards the far left socialist agenda with the representative in the House of Representatives, including my opponent, and those occupying Sacramento, coming up with the policies that make it very, very difficult for the families and businesses to continue to live and thrive and realize that American dream that I was so fortunate to achieve. But I'm afraid that we are eroding in that American dream. So I want to continue to fight so that we can together show that someone like me can achieve the American dream, and I'm living proof of that. The Republican Party is a party that empowers individuals to realize their potential. To me, Republican Party is the grand opportunity party that gives everyone the opportunity to succeed and realize their dreams. So I want to make sure that is available for everyone, not just for my kids' generation and their grandkids' generation. I want to make sure that it's available for all Americans. I am also running because I'm frustrated to the core. What we see in Washington, D.C., our representative in Washington, guys, they are so focused on this hyper-partisanship. I think we lost the meaning of being civil. The civility is lost. And that is something that I hope to bring back to Washington, D.C. And when we win 39th district and flip it, we are going to see the Republicans taking back the House. And that's what I'm fighting for. You know, the representative right now, including my opponent, is so focused on playing politics and using COVID-19 crisis to score some political points. You know, one thing I learned when I served in the state assembly is that if you don't care about who takes the credit, you can get a lot of things done. And that's what I did as an assembly member, working across the party lines to fight for homelessness, improve veteran services, lower tuition costs, strengthen our economy, and fight for the vulnerable population. And that's the kind of attitude and work ethic I will bring to Congress. And I'll try to work in ways that we can find common ground to get tangible results so we can break that partisan gridlock that has crippled Washington for so long. I am fighting because so much is at stake at this election cycle. So quickly, I want to give you a campaign and the lay of the land here. Because of the COVID-19, thankfully after primary, of course, but we had to shift our focus in providing service to the community. We pitched in and gave back to the community because we're all struggling during these times. But at the same time, we regrouped and we really built a strong ground game, informing the voters about our campaign, getting our message to the voters, using the new campaign tools to continue to communicate with our voters. And we had our recent polling that shows this race is in a dead hit. We always knew that this race will be incredibly close, but the polling result shows that this is a race that we can absolutely win. Our campaign is one of the top races in the country, and I'm so glad our race is in the top tier for the Reform California. Thank you so much for putting your effort and resources behind my campaign, because our race is one of the closely watched by the mainstream media. This is a top pickup opportunity for the Republicans. So my team and I are working around the clock every single day to let the voters know Gil's broken promises. And he's siding with the Democratic leadership, voting with Nancy Pelosi 100% of the time, voting with AOC 93% of the time. He promised to be a moderate. His voting record doesn't show. He's not a Democrat. I mean, he's not a moderate, anything but. And his left-leaning policies are hurting the people of the 39th district. So ladies and gentlemen, we just have 2 months to go. It's time to sprint to the finish line. All hands are on deck. With your support and your help, I know we can win this race. We can flip 39. We can take back the House. Thank you so much for everything you do. And I really, really appreciate every one of you. Hope that you sign up. YoungKimForCongress.com. Join Team Young. We have incredible team of hundreds of interns and volunteers that are making calls. Since primary, I have to brag about how wonderful my team is. They made over 1.2 million phone calls. Our connectivity, talking to the voters, is amazing. And we follow up with postcards. We follow up with personal calls. We do all of these things, whatever is needed to reach every single voter, including those who have never voted in the last 10 years. That's what the Democrats did well in 2018. We're gonna do that 2020 to ensure victory in November. Thank you again. Very
good, Young. And what you'll find, and John Moorlach referenced this, is we are selecting districts that are not only winnable, but that they're overlaid. Mm-hmm. So you'll notice that the districts being targeted for state assembly are within the state Senate districts that we're targeting, and they are underneath a congressional seat that we're targeting. And what that means is if you volunteer for one of the candidates, or if you are able to get those calls made, which we'll talk about in a minute, or the voter guide out to your neighbors, you are going to impact multiple seats that are winnable for reformers.
I want to quickly say my congressional district overlaps with Ling-Ling Chang's Senate district and Philip Chan's Assembly district. Yep. We have our office in Brea, and out of there, we will be working together and help each other campaign. This is a teamwork.
And that's exactly right. The teamwork that Young and John Moorlach are talking about, you didn't see that amongst Republicans in previous cycles, but you are seeing that in these campaigns now. And that's exactly how the Democrats play. So again, we are improving how we're doing elections, and that's something that I'm exceedingly proud of. Ling-Ling Chang won her seat in 2018 when we took Josh Newman out of office in a recall. He was the state senator that was the deciding vote on the car tax and the gas tax increase. He betrayed his constituents. Now, that same guy is running again, trying to sneak his way back into office. And so we do not want to see him back. That's why Ling-Ling has to get reelected in the 29th district. Ling-Ling, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, Carl.
How are you?
Good. How are you? And it's great to see my colleague, John Moorlach. We had a very late evening / morning. But thank you so much for everything, Carl. I know this particular seat is near and dear to your heart because you've worked so hard on it. And I really appreciate you getting me back into office. Yeah, thank you so much for that.
So how can people help you?
Yeah, so just wanted to talk about my race. You know, it's my seat, as well as John Moorlach, as well as Scott Wilk. But I have to say mine is the #1 targeted seat because the Senate Pro Tem is, or she has taken this personally, this recall personally, and she is pouring in unlimited resources to Josh Newman to try to get him back. He has been absolutely aggressive. You know, I'm gonna be just completely frank with you all. Democrats want to buy this seat. The public union bosses in Sacramento are continuing to pour endless funds into his pocket so that they can push their progressive politics onto our community. So my opponent, Josh Newman, he used to be in the Senate seat, as mentioned. During that time, he cast the deciding vote for the largest gas tax increase in California history. And as our economy has been crushed under government lockdowns, we're still living with that today. Then he voted to socialize our healthcare system with a $400 billion single-payer healthcare plan. But he didn't stop there. He then expanded San Francisco's sanctuary city law to apply to the entire state, and the list goes on and on. And I remember one of my colleagues telling me that he was on the floor with Newman, and he said, "What are you doing? You're facing a recall. You know, why are you continuing to vote as far left as you can?" And he said, "Look, Republicans aren't going to vote for me anymore, so I'm going to double down on the left." And so that's what's happened with Josh Newman. As a result, obviously, he was recalled from office with Carl's help, and voters approved that recall by a 20-point margin. The message was loud and clear: no more taxes. And after winning that Senate seat, the Democrats could no longer pass tax increases on their own. And I know John can reaffirm the fact that we were able to kill some taxes, including the water tax, in 2018 after we recalled Josh Newman. And even when he was out of office, Newman broadcasted how he supports AB 5, the biggest job killer our state has ever seen, forcing independent contractors to lose their livelihood. But this week in Sacramento, I can tell you my caucus, and I know John touched upon that, we filibustered and killed a lot of bad bills, anti-police bills and union giveaways. We accomplished that despite the fact that Democrats tried to ban us from participating and limiting how much Republicans can say on behalf of their communities. Like what Senator Moorlach said, you know, I wasn't even close to being 6 feet within Senator Jones. You know, if you were to look at the CDC guidelines, it's the Democrats who wanted to limit our participation, and they continued to do that. They were messing around with the mute unmute buttons last night, and it's just gotten so ridiculous. But they're not going to stop there. As I said, they want to buy the seat. And while I've raised a lot of money, it won't compare to the money their special interests will have. I mean, if you look up his reports, all of it's from union monies. And it's funny because he talks about how he won't ever take money from special interests. And then you go and you look at his report, you know, all of it is from special interests. If the Democrats get the seat back, nothing is going to stop them from raising your taxes and defunding the police. And they've tried it this year with the millionaires tax. They have several tax proposals, and they're going to continue to try to tax our hardworking families to death. But I just want to take a step back. It's not all about money. Campaigns are about connecting with voters. And for me, I've always loved knocking on doors. And I'll be honest, I think I'm going to try to do that to see if it works. I know that the census folks are knocking on doors because the other day, or actually it was like a couple weeks ago, we had a guy on our street knocking on doors, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, it's got to be someone from Newman's campaign, but it was the census folks, and people are talking to them. I just don't know how they would react to a candidate out there knocking on doors. But it is very, very different this year. We are making a ton of calls, hosting online meetings to get our word out. I think that it does help being an incumbent because you have the resources to be able to, be out there in your community. For example, my office, we were able to solve over 3,000 cases, most of them having to do with EDD, and EDD is a whole nother conversation. We were out there trying to provide PPE to families, to hospitals. Also, I was able to give out close to 50,000, or no, I think it was 60,000 pounds of bread to families who are in need. just trying to do my job to make sure that we're taking care of our hardworking families and that they're not being taxed to death right now, especially during this pandemic where the economy is tanking right now. And so this is an incredibly important seat to hold. And again, I am so grateful for you, Carl, for helping us take the seat back. I'm hoping that your listeners and supporters of Reform California can help out all of our target seats. And I know that Young did mention this, so I'll say her congressional seat is about 80% of my Senate seat. And I also have Phil Chen as well. So it is very important for all of us to work together. I've seen Josh Newman, Gil Cisneros out there working together, and we really need a huge push, and we need everyone. We need all hands on deck to help out this election cycle, because the word out there is that we're going to lose a ton of seats. And I'll tell you, Josh has just spent his campaign just for this last week, spent $400,000 on cable, on CNN and MSNBC, spreading lies about how I didn't do anything during this pandemic. And so he's also out there saying I'm exactly like Trump, so that's on CNN and MSNBC if you're on cable, but they're pouring a ton of money into this race.
Well, I gotta say, the reason why they're doing that is if they can get him reelected, then they get to go to their members and say, see, you can vote for a massive gas tax,
Right.
and eventually you'll get back into office.
Right.
So do what you're told and raise taxes. So that's why Tony Atkins, the Senate pro tem, is pouring millions of dollars in to defeat Ling-Ling and get Josh Newman back in. They're rewarding him for that tax vote. So we have got to win this seat, not just because it's another important seat in the Senate, but because it sends a message to the Democrats. You raise taxes and your political career is over. They're trying to resurrect the career of a tax raiser, and that's why we got to stop them. Thank you, Ling-Ling. And if you can go to her website, it's ling2020.com.
Right.
Next up is Diane Dixon. She is in the assembly seat that's underneath Michelle Steele's congressional seat, as well as underneath John Moorlach's state Senate seat. Diane, let's unmute you. And there you are. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear
And
me?
we can hear you. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Well, first of all, just to echo what everyone is saying, thank you, Carl, for bringing us together to this important audience. And there's one thing that characterizes, one of many things that characterize all the candidates who are speaking tonight. We have passion, we have determination, we have conviction, and we know that we represent platform issues that are the best for California, because California is in pretty bad shape. And John and Ling-Ling are up there holding on. They need more help. And we are here, we are determined, me, of course, on the Assembly side, and Ling-Ling and John on the Senate side, and then Young Kim, of course, and Michelle Steele. We are, all of us are unified, working together. The Republican message resonates significantly now. We all years ago thought, when will the pendulum ever swing? And it has gone so far to the left. I believe voters want to see more moderation and more conservative positions. Anything is conservative really compared to what's going on the far left in Sacramento. Let me tell you a little bit about my race in Assembly District 74, which is the coastal cities of Laguna Beach, Inland Laguna Woods, Newport Beach, Costa Mesa, Huntington Beach, and a lot of Irvine over the freeway. And so it is significant. And one thing I will say about this district and all of our districts, if we all the Republicans you're listening to tonight and others do not get elected, reapportionment is, speaking of the census, Ling-Ling just brought that up, the census takers, we haven't seen the worst. I mean, this particular district will be chopped up. They want to break up the Republican strongholds and what remains in Orange County. And we still have strongholds, and they won't last if we don't have the Republicans, if they're up there in Sacramento fighting for equity in the reapportionment battle. there are a lot of battles in Sacramento that we're all fighting for, and we're united in this. And the reason I'm running, I love my life as a city council person in Newport Beach. I'm in my second term. I've served as mayor twice, as the senator said. But as a sitting council person, this is what I saw, is the power grab taking away local control. I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't been serving on the city council. When we're constantly being presented, well, we have to amend our ordinances because Sacramento has now passed a law and the governor has signed such and such a law. And I know particularly on local control issues, John has been fighting for us. I know he has to have a seat at the table. He's done that very effectively in every single housing bill. I don't know if it's all because of you, John, you defeated all those horrible housing bills that were horrible to our local communities in this district and all communities, that would allow for multi-story, 10-story, high-density construction within our residential neighborhoods. In fact, Senator Wiener, who has said, he's on public record as saying, he thinks single-family homes are immoral. They want to create high-density cities, and all of that entails. And that is not what the voters of this district want. So local control is really important. I spent 30 years as a business person, so I have a conservative record on fiscal issues. As I work for a publicly traded company, a Fortune 300 company, where cost control and returning values to shareholders and to investors is the #1 priority, in addition to serving customers with value product. So I take that philosophy, that framework, to what I do in public office. Is returning value to taxpayers is the same thing as returning value. They are investors in our community and in our state. And I intend to bring that value-driven philosophy to Sacramento. A conservative fiscal mind, just as John is probably the only business person in Sacramento, at least you could count them on one hand, they have not signed the front side of a paycheck before. They don't really understand business. Just with the last conversation about Josh Newman and Tony Atkins on this taxing. Who pays for the taxes? They don't even understand how costs are how a business's cost. Business is such the bad guy, but the cost of doing business is passed directly on to the cost of consumer goods and what the price that consumers pay. It's not just some magic cloud in the sky that is delivering money to businesses that they are profiting on. I mean, profit is a bad word to all these people. They just don't understand. So I want to bring a sensibility, while even though I'll be part of the minority, the super minority, I'll be in the assembly advocating for business, for local control, for education choice. They're taking away choice, and they want to do away with charter schools. And in Orange County, educational choice is a big, important issue. And public safety. I mean, obviously, we care about I just authored a resolution on the Newport Beach City Council last week supporting our police department, our Newport Beach Police Department, because during the protests, we've had safe protests in our city thanks to our police. And we had one Black Lives Matter last weekend, safe protest. You're not hearing about it on the news with any windows broken. So our police do a fine job. I've been married 45 years this Sunday to a career prosecutor, and we're the parents of a prosecutor in New York City. And so public safety is really key. And I don't have time right now to go into the public safety bills that were just voted on last night, but my opponent, there's a long list of issues, but public safety, she is not in favor of protecting our public safety officers. She wants to they just want to just twist them, to make them twist and turn. Speaking of my opponent, she was elected in 2018, and the Republicans lost this seat for the first time in decades. So it was just one of the big surprises. And so, as John said, this district is a third Republican, a third Democrat, and a third independent. We have done polling as of maybe 2 weeks ago. And it's really, I'm not going to be overconfident, but I am confident that we can win this seat, because on name recognition, she's been in office 2 years. Name recognition, I have greater name recognition. on issues related to my platform positions, as I just described. Independent voters who are not satisfied with how things are going in California will vote for Diane Dixon by a 6 to 8, 9% margin. And that's without me really obviously being out campaigning. We're doing it all through social media and through direct mail is just starting. And so it is a winnable race. And I tell anyone who will listen that an investment in this race is an investment in taking back a reasonable stand in Sacramento so that we are not discounted. My opponent, she's famous for voting every step of the way for AB 5, the independent contracting law that Ling-Ling was talking about. She's voted against business interests. The California Chamber gives her a D- rating. The National Association of Small Independent Businesses gives her like a C-, D- rating as well. She has been allowed to, she votes when nobody's watching, she votes strict Newsom, strict progressive left, but when she thinks that the coastal voters are looking, she'll be absent without leave. She has abstained over 190 times, so she does not vote on the tough issues, so she doesn't have that kind of a record, but we're on to her. She's never has served in public office before. She is, let me just talk about contributions. She had $1 million cash on hand for this raise starting in, well, last June with the last reporting period. 500,000 came from her maxed out Senate colleagues who maxed out, which is a maximum contribution of $4,700. 56 labor organizations made up the difference of $500,000.
Yeah.
56. So that's the big payoff for her supporting the labor bills and AB 5. So she is not representing the people, the coastal communities of the 74th district. She is in the hands and under control and under the thumb of the labor unions. And that does not represent the people of this district. And I intend to let everybody know about that. One thing about running in this race, we have, as Republicans, all of us have a lot of platform issues that are really so critical to the quality of life that people want in Orange County and why they live in Orange County. And we want jobs, we want fiscal responsibility. We want, the COVID management is just a disaster. In fact, the current governor's plan, the current plan by Newsom, my belief that he wants everybody to stay, as many people as possible to stay unemployed through November 3rd. And so this to be a Republican problem. So we need to get people back to work. And that is what I pledge is because we'll be in a recovery mode, I expect in November and December when I'm up in Sacramento. We want business to be given the benefit of understanding how they are the engine of a quality of life for all Californians. One other thing I talk about, and my goal is to return California to the golden state that we all remember. And that is what we are all committed to. It can be done. People are fed up, they want change, and they'll vote for all of us because we represent the reformed California that you're talking about. And thank you, Carl, for putting this all together. It's a fabulous opportunity for all of us, and I'm very grateful. So
And
thank you.
not to diminish the other 12 candidates, but of the assembly seats, Diane's seat is the most winnable. It really is.
And it's the #1 target race for the Democrats.
Yeah. Yeah.
They want to, for an assembly. They
Yep.
want to take it. It's the #1 target assembly race in Orange County for the Republicans. All eyes are on this race, but we can win it.
And I'll tell you, one of the main reason why we lost the seat in 2018 is the incumbent Republican did not work. Diane has been working her tail off in every single respect.
Well,
So
thank
that's
you.
why I am urging people to get behind her and let's get this seat. Real quick, Suzette Martinez, Valadares, is in a seat where Republicans are going to get it. Okay, it's a safe seat now because 2 Republicans went into the runoff. However, she's the right Republican for the seat. We need workers, reformers in Sacramento. Suzette, we're really limited on time. If you could give us your 2-minute elevator speech.
Yeah, Carl, just even though this is a Republican seat, I think it's important for people to understand that this is one of the few times that the top two system locked out Democrats. It usually doesn't work in Republican favor. But this seat overlaps with Mike Garcia's congressional seat. And because we had two Republicans running in the primary for this assembly seat, Democrats locked themselves out. But Democrats did flip this seat in 2018. So mind you, while it's a safe Republican seat for November 3rd, it will be the top targeted race come 2022. Voter registration is essentially split in thirds, which means it's going to continue to be competitive. To date, I think it's important that your listeners and volunteers know a few things about me. I'm not your typical Republican. Democrats hate that when I was, 17, 18 years old, they told me, you're Latina, you're a woman, you're a millennial, therefore you are a Democrat. It took me to see Al Gore speak, and everything that Al Gore said directly contradicted the very values my parents taught me to believe. So thank you, Al Gore. He invented the internet, and Republican Suzette Martinez Valadares. Thank you, Al Gore. I also think that's important to talk a little bit about why I am the right candidate. To date, I beat actually won the primary by nearly 15 points. In the middle of a pandemic, my team, who I have an amazing team, has been able to raise nearly $400,000. My work ethic, my ability to raise money, my ability to represent the voice of our community is what's going to help us hold this seat in 2 years, as well as make sure that we get a fair shot at redistricting in 2021. Finally, man, Sacramento is giving us a lot to work with. Some of the things I want to focus on are going to be public safety, supporting law enforcement, and really pointing out this attack and this war on family values in our children. Our education is 46th in the nation. Things like $0 bail and releasing over 17,000 prisoners back into California during this pandemic, which include violent sex offenders that have abused children. Shutting our schools down in one of the most important times for children to need to be in school with this growing mental health crisis we have in our elementary schools and our junior highs. And even last night in SB 145, Democrats have now made it legal for a 16-year-old to have sex with a 6-year-old. Talk about a war on children. This is our family. I have a 3-year-old daughter. This is home to me. I'm not leaving California. If I stay and I fight. Failed Sacramento is crushing the middle class. They've literally pushed my family out of this state. My brother-in-law moved to Texas with his wife and 3 children. My brother moved to Virginia with his wife and 4 children. They're not coming home. They're not coming home. And every one of you on this call I know knows somebody who's not coming home. We've got to change the trajectory of our state because it's unsustainable.
Suzette, that's the message we need in Sacramento, and that's why we need to get you elected. We know you're going to work hard to make sure that this seat stays in the Republican column when they do redistricting, and you're going to be a breath of fresh air up there. So for all of you out there, before we get to questions, we'll have a little bit of time for questions. How can you help? First and foremost, pick one or more of these 12 candidates and go all in. Contribute, volunteer, tell your friends to contribute, tell your friends to volunteer. We'll be sending out an email with their website links to all of you so that you can get in touch with them. But these candidates need your help. Do not sit on the sidelines. I know other candidates are going to call you saying, hey, help me with my city council race, help me with my assembly or congressional race. They're all well-intentioned. This is where the battle resides in 2020 in California, these 12 seats. So you need to prioritize these candidates and do everything you possibly can for these candidates. The Democrats want us to go off tilting after windmills. We do not have the resources they do. We must unite and focus on just these 12 candidates. Doesn't mean the other candidates aren't good on our side, but these are the candidates we can win with. And then we go after those seats during the next cycle. Also, do a Reform California volunteer shift. We have 3 programs that we need help with, and they help all of these candidates. Calls from home, mail-a-thons, and neighborhood walk. Let me go through those real quick. Right now at Reform California, since April, we've been working on a list of 500,000 California voters that our data analytics firm has identified as what we call sleepy activists. These are people who would be a volunteer. They would walk their neighborhood. They would contribute to a candidate, but they don't know who's running and they don't really know where to start. So what we're doing is we're calling these people between now and October 1st. We are doing handwritten letters to them. We've already done about 400,000 handwritten letters since April. We want to do another 100,000 in the next 2 weeks. We have already done tens of thousands of phone calls to them. We need to hit 500,000 phone calls this election cycle. So if you can just make 40 calls from home, that's a shift, and we would appreciate it. And then go volunteer for one of the candidates. But we need to activate these individuals, because what we're really trying to do is the next thing. We need these people to go door to door in their neighborhood with the door hanger, with an entire set of recommendations to vote no on Prop 15, vote no on 19, vote yes on Prop 22, vote yes to support our police with yes on Prop 20. So they get the statewide ballot measures. They get local ballot measures that are tax increases to vote no on, because a lot of times the tax measures are hidden. And then they will get our entire slate of candidates, these 12 priority candidates, but all of the endorsed candidates in all those seats. So we really hope that you can help us activate these sleepy activists, because if they just get a phone call from someone to encourage them to get in the game, they will. And we're seeing a lot of people sign up to do the door-to-door program. You can do a sign up, just go to the Prop 15 website, because as soon as you're in that database, you'll get the assignments on what to do. But if you go to stoppropertytaxhikes.com, you can sign up to be a volunteer. You can request a free lawn sign. We'll send you a free lawn sign. And you can also connect with the petition so you can get the voter guide automatically. With that, let's see if we have time for some questions. We have about 3 minutes for questions. I do want to encourage you to, if you don't have if your question is not entertained, to email us info@reformcalifornia.org. We will then share that with the appropriate candidate or we'll answer it for you. Let's go, if you have a hand that you want to raise, just click raise hand. But right now I've got Ryan May asking, is there a move to make in-person voting to prove their identity? We need picture ID. Yes, we all want to do that, but right now the rules for November's election are pretty much set in stone. We have a very unfair voting system in California. However, we're going to be doing some things in the next 6 weeks that will put Democrats on notice that any voter fraud will be fully investigated. Stay tuned on that. We got a couple stunts up our sleeve, but definitely we are watching what's going on with the duplicate ballots, the triplicate ballots, the ballots being mailed to dead people. A guy in LA was just arrested and charged with voter fraud for voting 3 times for his dead mother. Yeah, she died in 2006. So we are finding evidence, we are turning over evidence, and there's going to be some bombshell revelations on just how bad our voting process is in California in the next 3 to 6 weeks. Do you have a hand that's raised? Philip, are you there, Philip? Go ahead and ask your question. We've unmuted you.
No, I was just curious on the last election. I saw that Donald Trump only got 25% of the Asian vote. What do the Asian people that are running think is in that? There's something connected with they don't hear him right, or they have a specific problem with him?
Ling-Ling or Young Kim, do you want to take that? How do we reach out to Asians more? And you're unmuted now. The Asian community should be Republican voters for prosperity, for strong education, for equality in admissions.
All of those. Talk to them about the quality of education that our Asian Americans care about. And also on the ballot is the Prop 16, which will bring back the affirmative action. So talk to them about those. In my district, I know Donald Trump lost by about 8 points last time. If we focus on economy and how the economy, his economic policy has helped us before COVID-19, and that's the only way that we can see ourselves getting out of this crisis post-COVID-19. Talk about those important issues, and I think we can get the Asian Americans back. And the fact that our district overlap with Ling-Ling and Philip, we have the ability to be the voice for the Asian American community to make sure that they get energized and excited about our campaigns too. So we can talk about all of these things and talk about how the Republican Party is the party of opportunity that gives us all of these opportunity to succeed. And again, talk about how we are all supportive of legal immigration, and that's what the President Trump is fighting, that's what the Republican Party is fighting, and that's why we as Republican candidates are fighting. And I think we can really solidify the hardworking immigrant, the Asian American community that you are asking, Philip, that we can bring them back to our side.
Okay.
Ling-Ling, anything to add to that?
Right. No, I completely agree with Young. It's about the economy, and Prop 16 is going to be one of the biggest issues in the Asian community, especially in our district, because I've heard from school district superintendents that they've been getting a ton of calls from parents about it. And so, you know, especially
for those of you who don't know, Prop 16 would legalize race-based discrimination in the state of California. And it's misworded on the ballot. It talks about diversity when in fact it is legalized race-based discrimination.
Can I just say something?
Yes, Diane.
I just want to real quickly to support that. I went to a rally in Irvine a couple Saturdays ago. It's a anti-no on Prop 16, and all the Asians are so motivated, and those, if the Asians wanted to vote Democrat, they're not voting Democrat this year, especially because it's merit-based. They support merit-based and not racial preferences. They are so smart about this, and I think that's a real advantage for the Republicans to really get out front on Prop 16.
Robert in the chat room says, Robert Hayrow says, can I donate to someone not in my district? Absolutely, yes. You can donate to anyone you want, whether it's in your district or not, and every single dime counts. As I think Young Kim pointed out, as Diane Dixon pointed out, as Ling-Ling pointed out, the Democrats' money is all millionaire money and special interest money. And in Young Kim's case, her opponent said he wasn't going to take PAC money, and what did he do? He went to Washington and broke that promise and started taking all this big PAC money. So you may think my $25 won't be that big of a deal. $25 from 25,000 people is a really big deal. So give as much as you can to the candidates, whether they're in your district or not, because you're supporting representation for all of us. And how someone votes in a different district, it impacts you and your quality of life. Let's go to Trisha Del Sol. She's on the phone. Trisha, go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, so I went online and I tried to sign up for a yard sign and volunteer, and it kept kicking me off. So I'm not sure that I was able to sign up to walk in my neighborhood, make some phone calls and different things like that. So that was one of my questions.
So Trisha, do you get my emails already?
I do, yes.
Oh, you'll get asked multiple times to volunteer for these candidates. Don't worry.
Okay, so I'll just keep
You
going
can
back.
run, but you cannot hide. Once you're in the system, you're there.
All right, and then I'm assuming that you'll have some information on our local San Diego races coming out.
Yes, so this year's voter guide, like last year's voter guide, is going to be separated into 3 parts. There will be a California voter guide that will go out to all districts in the state except San Diego and Orange County. And in San Diego and Orange County, the voter guide will be san diego election guide.org, and there will also be an Orange County specific voter guide, because all of the races that we're really focusing on are mainly San Diego and Orange County, and so we wanted to do a specific voter guide for each of those.
And do you know when those should be coming out?
Yes, it'll go online. It's going to go on iHeartMedia, Kogo, KFI website next week. right after Labor Day. And then the door hangers themselves will be coming out the second or third week of September. And so when you say, yes, I want to sign up to get the voter guide to my neighborhood, 30 homes is all we ask.
Okay.
Walk door to door. We will get you the door hangers, and we will also get you a list of target voters that we're trying to activate.
Okay, great. And thank you all the candidates for their time tonight. It's
We have
great.
time for one more? We got one more, and it's Alana. Alana Wilson. Go ahead, Alana. You're able to be speaking.
I wanted to know if all the candidates will be listed on the website with their web addresses.
They will, all you have to do is email info@reformcalifornia.org and we will connect you to their campaigns.
Okay.
When the voter guide goes live, their websites will be on the voter guide, but that's not happening till next week. I don't want to delay you in signing up or donating, so email and we'll get that out to you as soon as possible.
Okay. Also, you had mentioned Mike Morrell. Is he a Democrat? I thought he was Republican.
No, he's a Republican, but he is term limited, which is why his seat is now a seat we have to defend or we'll lose it to Democrats. And it's drifted in recent years and we have a lot of work to do there. So that's why he's on that top, that's why that seat, his seat is on the top tier priority list.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so everyone, your assignment, number one, if you're not already on the list as a volunteer, sign up as a volunteer, stoppropertytaxhikes.com, not .org, .com, stoppropertytaxhikes.com. Second, go to the websites of each of the candidates and sign up as a volunteer, donate, spread the word, post it on social media, get the word out. And then finally, you do need to think about how you prioritize your money and your time. And I know that you're going to have a lot of people calling you saying, volunteer for my city council race, donate to this, that, and the other thing. If we don't do well with these 12 seats, we are literally screwed. And I can't put it any tougher than that. So I love all the candidates that are out there working hard, but these are the 12 seats that we cannot write off. And think about it this way. If we do a lot of work in September and then suddenly we're winning all these seats by nice margins, then in October, think about some other candidates. But right now we got to step up and we got to get these candidates where they need to be. So any questions, please email us info@reformcalifornia.org. And we'll also make this video available on our website and on my YouTube channel tomorrow morning. So if you forget who the candidates are, all you have to do is watch the video and copy down their names on the slide. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to the candidates for being in the arena and working hard, and we'll get you across the finish line November 3rd. Take care.
Thank you.